Welcome to the Infosec Career Video Series. This set of short videos will provide a brief look inside cybersecurity careers and the experience needed to enter them. Today I'll be speaking with Infosec Skills author Chris Stevens about the role of information risk analyst. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So Chris, let's start with the basics. What does an information risk analyst do? What are the day-to-day tasks of that career path?
Well, it depends on the organization. I've done risk management in the military as an intelligence professional in the intelligence community. More recently, as a risk manager, assisting with information security and also as well as privacy risk management. And so you're there to help the organization understand risk on all levels, to identify that risk, to analyze that risk, to help business owners, system owners, mission owners themselves understand that risk so they can make informed decisions on whether they accept that risk, avoid it, transfer it, or mitigate the risk.
Can you give me some examples of what types of risks we're talking about here?
I'm primarily talking about information risk.
Right.
There are all types of risk, financial risk. Everything we do in life has some type of inherent risk before you mitigate that risk.
Right.
I'm primarily talking about protecting data.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
So when we talk about protecting data, data has value to the persons to whom it pertains. It has value to those organizations entrusted to process it lawfully and legally. Unfortunately, it has attraction to those entities that want to use it probably for unauthorized purposes. Right. So you need the risk manager to look at the organization's activities themselves to see where you have that inherent risk, measure that risk so you can reduce that risk so you're not impacting an organization's profitability and survivability.
Gotcha. Okay, so how does one become an information risk analyst? Is this an entry-level position, or do you need to start at more of a foundational level and work your way up towards this type of position?
I think there are many paths to get to your goal. I teach a course for Drexel University. It's School of Computing and Informatics, which is an IT security risk management program. So you can do it academically.
Yep.
You can do self-study, like I've done, get a foundational understanding of those risk management processes out there. Infosec has a great set of learning paths and courses that individuals can take at very cost effectively.
Okay.
You offer, you use IC3 certification, certified authorization professional that helps individuals that have to comply with NIST. It's a risk management framework, understand how to work through the ANA process. You've got a great information security management program, courses in risk management. You also do a great job in helping organizations or individuals understand how to support the government, where I spent many years, decades.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it depends on the individual. I can tell you, my road wasn't a straight path. I was required to do risk assessments in the military. My first job out of the military, I was hired by the Transportation Security Administration to do risk assessments. After I left and retired from the military and the government, there was still a need for not only entry-level risk managers, but also others that had, studied information security, cybersecurity, and some of the other disciplines out there that also include risk management activities.
Right. Now, we mentioned the sort of the degree route of learning risk analyst and of course the certifications. Is this a type of position where either a degree or certification is required on your resume for an employer to see that you have done the work, or is this more you're doing the work and then you sort of study the thing to make sure that you've truly mastered it?
I think it's the former. Because again, with the stakes that are tied to risk management, organizations that want to hire you want to know not only do you have the experience, but do you have the knowledge?
Yes.
And so there are recognized certifications out there. I myself am certified by ASACA, and it's certified risk and information systems control, a great certification to have, widely respected. Again, you've created learning paths and courses to help people get there. PMI has a great risk management program. If you're in insurance or financial there are financial certifications like the Certified Risk Manager. The FAIR Institute, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Okay.
Factor Analysis of Information Risk
Yep.
has a great certification, 3 tiers that you can take. So I encourage others not only to follow the academic approach. I can tell you, Chris, I have multiple degrees. And not one person has hired me because of those degrees in risk management. They've hired me because of the certifications and then also the knowledge, skills, and abilities that I've developed over time.
Got it. Now, what skills does an information risk analyst need to do their job well? This could either be technical skills or soft skills. What kind of person does well in this type of role? Someone
that's eclectic, that has blended skills.
Got it.
Risk manager has to talk to different audiences. And you have to sometimes you have to convey bad news. You have to translate that technical speak into business jargon. Many business owners, senior executives, senior managers won't understand the technical jargon associated with risk. And so, you'll get that deer staring in a headlight, that glazed look.
Right.
And so you have to translate that into business terms. When you're asking me to invest dollars, finite resources to address and mitigate this risk, why should I listen to you and divert those scarce resources to address these issues when, I have other demanding issues? And so you have to be able to convey that. You have to understand the mission and business of the organization. You have to understand the strategic and operational goals and objectives. You have to have the ability to talk up and also talk horizontally.
Okay.
Because remember, as a risk manager, you don't own anything. It's the business owner, the mission owner, the system owner that owns the information systems that process that data, that store that data. You're there to help them be successful. And to do that is you have to convey that message in terms they understand. Lots of times equated in dollars and cents. You asked a great question about certifications, about, academic, knowledge. One of the things you want to do is have a foundational understanding of risk. And so even before you start your journey, when you start investing dollars and cents and obtaining these skills, there are resources that are available like ISO ISC 31,000, risk management. Okay. Gives you from a global standpoint, you can go to NIST. Look at its risk management framework, NIST Special Publication 837 Revision 2, and start building that foundational knowledge. I'll tell you another thing they can do, and this isn't a plug for Infosec just because I'm speaking for Infosec. You have great boot camps. You can distill these certifications, and I know that from taking your CSIM. I'm a CSIM as well.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
I took your CSIM boot camp, 5 days with a phenomenal instructor that really broke the examination down in layman terms, helped you understand the nuances of the exam. The CSIM has a high fail rate first time.
Yeah.
I passed it the first time because I took your 5-day boot camp. I studied for a month. You provided me with outstanding resources. And when I tested a month later, I did quite well. And that's because I took your boot camp.
Wow. Love it. So love to hear that.
Well, it's not a plug for you. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
For me, I love what I do. Risk touches everything.
Yes.
And so you may not have to, you can start as an entry level. There are people who have started as entry level risk managers that are now working as chief risk officers. Of course, they have the education, they have the certification behind it and the experience, but that's how important risk management is to organizations. Either they get it or they don't.
Right.
Either they mitigate, identify, assess, and mitigate risk, or they find themselves on the other side of that divide. And lots of these companies have gone out of business because they don't have effective enterprise risk management programs.
So moving on, some of our other career paths that we've talked about are very tool intensive. I'm not sure, are there some common tools that information risk analysts use? And can you talk about those at all?
Well, MITRE has RiskNav.
Okay.
So again, there are some tools out there. Again, the tool is only as good as the person that's using it.
Sure.
And so that's the reason why, I did made the statement that before you start using any of these tools, you have a good understanding of risk techniques, that underpin those tools. Like I mentioned, FAIR. FAIR has a process for doing quantitative analyses. You might find yourself having to do a qualitative analysis using things like a Delphi method and others. A great resource that I used before I started my risk management process was, again, I went to ICs, the International Electrotechnical Community has a complement to ISO 31010 that lays out those qualitative and quantitative risk analyses, over 30. It just blows the mind how many ways you can look and analyze risk.
Yeah.
And then with that basic understanding, you can apply any tool. Now, again, the tool is only as useful as it's accepted by that organization as well.
For sure. So where do information risk analysts work? What type of job options are available? Is this an enterprise situation? Do you work as a consultant? I'm assuming there are probably a lot of federal and military jobs as well.
There are. You can work in the public sector or private sector. Working in, of course, when you talk about risk in the military, when we are talking about side of information risk, DoD has, and you have a great boot camp, going back to your boot camp, your DoD risk management framework that helps organizations understand how NIST applies to DoD operations. It also uses ISO 31000. And some of the other processes out there. And so as a risk manager, you can find yourself working anywhere. When I left the military, I was an intelligence officer. I got recruited by TSA as a risk manager. And one of the most fascinating jobs I had now, not only was I there to protect information, I was also there to assess risk to critical infrastructures and key resources. Every aspect of an organization, I've had some role in risk. As a senior intelligence executive, I had to assess risk. So you can find yourself working as a risk manager, especially in industries like finance, like insurance. It depends on, the path of the individual. And I like to lay out my career plan, looking at it in 3 to 5 year steps. Where am I at today?
Yep.
Where do I want to be in 3 to 5 years and how I get there? And if you want to be a risk manager, first it starts off with, you're going to have some experience. You're going to have these certs under your belt.
Yep.
To get the certs, that means you're going to have worked in some of these capacities, like if you want to see risk. The CSIM has a risk management component. And so for me, you can apply in government itself. You can go to USA Jobs. There are risk manager jobs out there, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Go to Indeed.com, LinkedIn.com, set up job alerts for risk, and you'll find that you'll have untold opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from that, you mentioned your 3 to 5 year plan going forward, but moving beyond risk analyst, and you talked privacy before as well. What are some other job roles that you can move into from information risk analyst, whether that's an upward or a lateral move? What are the skills that you get with working in information risk? What are some of the pivots that are especially intuitive to that?
Oh, they're innumerable. You can do project management.
Yep.
That's why PMI has its risk management program. You can work in cybersecurity. There's a lot of alignment between risk management and the NIST CSF. You can find yourself, if you're looking at systems engineering, privacy engineering, looking at it from the standpoint of how do we translate requirements, external requirements like laws, rules, and regulations into technical controls, administrative controls. Risk plays a big role in that. You can find yourself pivoting to, like I did, to privacy.
Yes.
Which has a big information management component. It's one of their more growing fields out there when you look at privacy risk management. You can use organizations understanding, like I said, how do you adopt concepts like security by design, security by default, privacy by design, privacy by default, because at the end of the day, from the time you conceptually design a process, you have to assess risk.
Yeah.
And you have to assess risk. You can find yourself in manufacturing. So there are a number of industries where risk management plays an important part.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost kind of like an umbrella set of theories that apply to so many other areas of the field.
That's right. And if you look at, well accepted certifications like the CISSP
Yep.
or the CISA, or you look at this, I'll use the CISA.
Yep.
CISM has a risk management component. Why is that?
Yeah.
Not only are you there to manage from an information security management perspective, but to do so, you have to understand risk management. Yeah. You have to be able to identify it, and you have to be passionate.
Oh, yeah.
I was mentoring a young man and he was starting at the entry level, building his credentials. He wasn't getting the jobs as quickly as he thought. And so that's where perseverance starts in.
Okay.
You have to, I hate to use the adage, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah.
But you can't be the chaff.
No.
and so in risk management, the jobs are out there. And I do this all the time, Chris, and I'll go out whether I'm interested in a position or not. I just do a sampling. What's out there? Do a keyword search against these job databases to see, what they're asking for. And then if you're starting out entry level, you look at what they're asking, what credentials do I have to have? Ask yourself the question, do I have them? If I don't, how do I acquire them? Community colleges are a cheap way of getting training, but, I'm here to tell you, I've worked with a lot of training providers. Your skills IQ, you're allowing people to pay like $500, $599, I think it is, annually, and to be able to take your multitude of courses.
Yeah.
How do you beat that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such an important thing, especially if you want to pivot into other areas, that it's all still you have so many different paths to the treasure, so to speak.
And I'll give you an example. I looked at the information for your IC3 CAP certification learning path. Extremely important. Risk plays an important part of that. So, if you want to grow as an authorization professional, if you understand risk from the standpoint of, aligning security assessments from the line of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and then walking through the design in that before you actually put that process or that system in place, you've gone through a rigorous risk management piece, and that's adaptable in the public sector or the private sector.
Yeah.
There are software engineers out there, constantly assessing risks, secure coding and things like that before you get software that's full of bugs that you've offered and, you fell on the, after production.
Yeah. DevSecOps and the whole thing. Now, to wrap things up, you mentioned this a little bit, but for our listeners who are ready to get started in information risk analyst positions, what's something they could do right now, right after they turn this video off, that'll move them a step closer to the goal of becoming an information risk analyst?
I think the first thing you do is ask yourself, you look at where you are now. This applies to students. So students that are entering the workforce for the first time, where do I want to work? What type of work do I want to do? If you're interested in risk management or some aspect of risk, then you have to go to those job boards. You have to see what's out there, what they're asking for, and build the credentials. If you're dissatisfied where you are in a career, whether you're working at you're the help desk person, the call center person, you have some understanding of information security, you start looking to see, from a risk perspective, how can I do that internal to my organization? Or where do I have to go? And then you have to lay out what are those skills you have to acquire and then start to acquire those. I wasn't born a risk manager.
Yeah.
This isn't a path. It's like my favorite poem in the world, The Road Not Taken. Yes. I've taken many other roads to get there, but I took a chance on risk management and it's changed my life forever. And I have to thank the Infosec Institute for helping me with my journey.
I love that. Well, Chris Stevens, thank you for your time and insights today. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Now you got me excited. There's some spontaneous combustion going on over here. So I don't want to implode on the camera, but I enjoy talking about this topic.
Absolutely. So, and I hope you all have enjoyed listening to this. If you'd like to know more about other cybersecurity job roles, please check out the rest of the videos in Infosec's Career Video Series. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.